Rod has asked me to talk about the Des Moines Rapids. As we see the river right now, you'll notice that there is a lake here. And years ago, they built a dam down at Keokuk, which is down the river probably about 12 to 15 miles. And after they had built the dam, the water came up and it formed what is now called Lake Cooper. And the water actually backs up beyond the bridge clear down to Fort Madison. And so the water table in this particular lake has raised substantially. And so what we need to do in talking about those rapids is to look at it not as it is now, but as it was then. Then we would notice that the river would be much narrower, and there was some rapids that came up the, which would be just down the river, starting from probably about in this area, down past Nauvoo. And the information, the research that I've done on these rapids is that the rapids were fairly narrow, and at that time they were only about 2.5 feet deep. So a person could actually walk across the river in those rapids. When they did put the dam in, the water came up, and it has covered much of the area between here and Nauvoo. At that particular time, when the rapids were here, this would have been a valley down through here, all the way, practically all the way to Nauvoo. There would have been way out into the river here, where there would be a flat area and kind of a valley, and it all went all the way around to Nyota area, which would form kind of a valley here. Also, at the time when the rapids were here, before the dam was put in, there was a large island right out here, and it was actually you can see two islands right now, and at that time there was one large island, and it actually went down here probably about another mile down the river, and so that made two channels in the river, one on the other side of that island, one on this side of the island, which would be fairly narrow. And down further, down towards the Nauvoo area, we're about 3 miles up the river from Nauvoo, and down in that area there was another island, a smaller island, and that island was known as one of the islands where Joseph Smith actually was in hiding at different times. The sandbar, right now I can take my boat out in this area right here where this island was, and the sandbar comes up so high that I can't cross the river in this area right here. The sandbar actually went down probably about another mile down that direction, and as far over here as you see that small island over there. Now the old timers, they tell me that of course this was back in the 1800s and the early 1900s, that this island they actually raised hogs out there on that particular island right there. Going back to what it probably looked like before the dam was put in this particular area, there would have been a large valley that went on this side of the river and a huge valley that was on the other side of the river, and that is the Montrose area over here on the other side of the river, and Joseph Smith called that the Zarahemla area. And that's always been interesting to me, and if that is Zarahemla over on the other side of the river, then on this side of the river there were some battles that took place, and I have been very interested in those battles that took place on this side of the river and on the other side of the river, On this side of the river, we find mounds that are all the way from Nyota clear down past Nauvoo. There are burial mounds that all the way down across this ridge right here. And so whether those battles that are in the Book of Mormon took place here, I'm satisfied that there was battles that took place on this hill here, because there have been too many artifacts, war artifacts, that have been found on this hill here to just be hunting. There's just been too many artifacts, and so I'm satisfied that there was a battle, whether it was that battle or whether it was some other battles, but there's been some battles on this hill.
I wanted to talk about the importance and the strategic importance of the Des Moines Rapids. This area, the Des Moines Rapids, was from approximately here. I'm at my good friend Cal Christensen's property here, just north of Nauvoo. And this area out through here in the river, this was the beginning area of the Des Moines Rapids. And it went down through here past, or down to, not quite to Keokuk, which is about a couple or 3 miles down here. So this, why was this important? Why would this area that the Lord named Zarahemla across the river from Nauvoo here, why would that be important? Well, if you think about it, if you have 20,000 men, if you're a Lamanite leader and you want to take 20,000 men and bring them across the river, what you would need to do is you'd have to either have one of two things. You could either take them in canoes or have them swim. If the swimming idea is there, then you have to have these men with their armor, their shields, breastplates, head plates, their spears and their swords and so forth, and be able to swim across the Mississippi River. Which, now this is of course much wider than it was back then, but even then it would have been an extremely dangerous task to do that. The other option would be to take them in canoes, which of course you have two people that have to paddle the canoes back and forth, so you can only take 3 or 4 at a time. If you need to move 15 or 20,000 men across the river, that's going to take an awfully long time, and you lose a major advantage in war. So what the importance of this site is that this is the first place that the Mississippi River could actually be forded on foot. The average depth was only about 2.5 feet deep as you walk out across the river. Up above here, the river was about 2,500 feet wide. At this location, the river widened out to 4,500 feet wide, and then down past by Keokuk, the river went back to 2,500 feet wide prior to the time of dams and locks on the river. That's because there's a limestone shelf that actually comes right across here, across the river. The river widened out and became so shallow that riverboats could not any longer go up the river. They had to actually unload their cargo at Keokuk and portage their cargo up around the bend up here to Madison. So this would become a very strategic location from a military standpoint, because if you can control these rapids, if you can control who comes across this area, you effectively can seal off literally the western part of the United States from the eastern part by controlling these rapids. And that becomes a very strategic area militarily to hold. But if you think about this, if the rapids here were a strategic place where people could cross this river on foot, would it also not be the case that it would be a very economic place? This is where a lot of trade would occur. You have obsidian coming from the Rocky Mountains over in Yellowstone National Park today. We have copper coming from up in Michigan. We have mica coming from the Appalachian Mountains, and this is what is recorded in the Hopewell Interaction Sphere, the Hopewell mound building people. These are artifacts that are found in their burial mounds. And then you also have conch shells from the Gulf of Mexico coming up into this area. This would be one of the largest trade centers then in North America, and exactly is what you would find, or what you would consider to find, if the Book of Mormon is true, then what you have is you literally have the city of Zarahemla was always the largest city in the Book of Mormon. It makes sense that it would be in a strategic location for that to occur, and this certainly would be a very strategic location.